So we're at chapter 68. We were on chapter 68, right? Because I feel like I haven't told you guys all of this. I'm going to look at one of the VODs because my list said chapter 68, but I just realized that might just have been where I was in it because, you know, I read it beforehand. There we go. I found where we were. We were at chapter 57. My apologies. I just rocketed you guys forward. Like I said, it only gets weirder. So we're at chapter 57. So last time in chapter 56, if we recall, they go back to the cave, and after the angels have gone off back to heaven, guess who shows up? It's Satan again! With, quote, shamefacedness. He stands at the entrance to the cave of treasures and calls to Adam, like, Adam, come, let me speak to thee. And Adam thinks that it's one of the angels come back, and he goes out of the cave to see who's calling for him. And that's where we left off. So now Satan, as we know, as it has been explicitly said multiple times in the text, does not look like one of God's angels anymore. He is, quote, hideous. He is so ugly. I mean, he puts on disguises and stuff, but his true face, he's just butt ugly, apparently. So Adam comes out expecting to see an angel, but instead he sees the devil and is freaked out and is like, who art thou? I don't know why he's using the familiar. Satan's like, it's me who hid myself within the serpent and who talked to Eve and got her to eat the fruit of the tree and then like to convince you to eat the fruit too. And Adam's like, oh, hey, God told me to do this. Can you make me a garden like God did or give me the divine nature that God did? Can you even do any of that? I'm pretty sure it's a rhetorical question. And Satan, for once, is apparently truthful and is like, dude, father of lies. Did you think I was ever telling you the truth? Like, I made you fall like I fell from heaven. And anyone who listens to me is going to have the same thing happen to them. I guess he's just breaking character. I don't know what he's doing. But you know what? Because you fell, I'm king over you now. On this earth, because thou hast hearkened to me and hast transgressed against thy God, you will not be safe from my hands until that covenant with God to save you, you know, the crucifixion and stuff, is fulfilled. And no one even knows when that's going to happen. So I am going to bring about war and murder and all that stuff upon you guys because I do not want any of the humans here on the earth to inherit it. Because I want the earth. He wants the earth for him and his hosts. He's jealous, envious that God has given the earth to the humans. Satan's like, I'm going to bring about war and murder because I want the earth and I don't want you guys to have it. The place I live is a burning fire. And I am not going to stop being evil. I will not rest, and I, quote, shall sow fire upon thee. I don't know why Satan's just, like, blabbering all of his plans to Adam. He's not a very clever villain, apparently. For all of his tricks, he's like, here's my exact plan. But he's like, I want the earth, so I'm going to make everything suck for you guys, because now I have to live in hell, and I got cast out of heaven. Adam starts crying. He turns to Eve, who I guess came out of the cave too, and is like, did you hear that? See, just like the word of God said, he can't do any of the things that he said he would do when we were in the garden. I don't recall him making those promises in the garden in the Bible, but he is kind of disturbed by Satan's statement that he is king over them because he was sent to the darkness of earth and the mortal world. And Adam's like, do you really think he's king over us? We will ask God to deliver us out of his hands. We're gonna need divine help with this dude. So they pray and ask God to drive Satan away from them, and immediately God sends an angel to do so. They're like, God, Satan's bothering us, and God's like, not again. Sends an angel to, like, drive Satan away, like an annoying dog or something. For those counting, this happened at about sunset on the 53rd day since they left the garden. Adam and Eve go back into the cave, and Adam's like, there is so much temptation here. Let's go pray nonstop for days at a time again. And they do. They don't come out of the cave, quote, by night or by day, until their prayers went up out of their mouths like a flame of fire. And now, their prayers have protected the cave before. At one point, Satan came to visit, but they were praying in the cave, and that holiness, I guess, like, was kind of a shield, prevented Satan from going in there. Anyway, so their plan, Adam and Eve, is to pray for 40 days straight. Quote, but Satan, the hater of all good, did not allow them to end their prayers. He gathers together his hosts, and, quote, in the 30th night of the 40 days and one, they literally just go into the cave, I guess the prayer didn't protect them this time, and just beat Adam and Eve to death. So much for subtlety, I guess? Like, dude. I know that he threw them off a cliff at one point too, but that just seems so lazy. He's always coming up with these schemes and stuff to trick them, and it just seems so lazy that he gets his angels and just like ambushes them and beats them to death. But of course, the word of God comes to resurrect them, as he has every time they have died. They wake up, and the word of God is like, hey, that was Satan. He just came in here and just like beat you guys to death at random. But, quote, be strong and be not afraid of him who has just come to thee and beat you to death for no reason except that he's mad. Adam is crying, and he is like, God, why did you let him beat us to death at random? And God is like, he is Lord and Master of all thou hast, of the earth, I guess. But you see he doesn't love you? Does he come and comfort you and strengthen you like I do? Does he send his angels to guard you like I do? Apparently only sometimes. Like not even once. And yet you keep listening to him and not me. And Adam is like, this is horrible. We transgressed a little, and you have given us like really harsh punishment. Can't you at least deliver us out of Satan's hands? Someone can. Well, they only have this one cave. Remember? They tried to leave it, and God grounded them because they left the cave to sleep under the tree. They're not supposed to move without God's permission. But Adam's like, this is seriously harsh. Like, can you at least have enough pity on us to kill us? I don't want to live like this anymore. And God's like, yeah, if only you thought of that before you ate the fruit. You wouldn't be in this mess. You wouldn't be mortal if you guys had obeyed the one rule I gave you. Quote, but God had patience with Adam and let him and Eve remain in the cave until they had fulfilled the 40 days. But Adam and Eve are in pretty bad shape by this point because they received the figs, but they didn't eat them because they were too scared. They haven't eaten the figs. They haven't drunk any water because last time they ate, it got them kicked out of the garden, so they're scared and they refuse to eat. Since they haven't eaten or drunk since they left the garden or, got kicked out, by now they just lay in the cave. They can't do anything. They are exhausted and starving and dehydrated, and I don't know how they've survived this long, because usually people don't survive that long without food and water, but yet what speech escaped from their mouth was only in praises. Like, they're still praising God, even though they are kind of, stuck on the ground because they're so starving. By the 89th day, Satan has come up with a new idea to get Adam and Eve out of the cave before the 40 days are up. Satan disguises himself as an old man. Quote, his face was pleasant and his speech was sweet, and he puts on a garment of light and carries a staff of light. And he comes up to the cave and is like, hey guys, come out here with me to a better land. I am definitely not Satan. I'm actually a mortal like you guys, but God put me in a different garden, and at one point he caused me to fall asleep and took a rib out of my side to make you, Adam, just like he did with Eve for you. I'm basically your dad, right? I was pretty bummed that God didn't let you guys live with me, but I didn't transgress any of God's commandments. I was living in my garden until God came and told me that you guys had transgressed and were being punished and all that. He said you were having a pretty bad time, but he sent me to you to bring you to my garden and to give you the fruit of the tree of life you've been asking for, and the water of peace, and clothe you in garments of light, like mine, and restore you to the way that you were back in the garden, like you guys have been asking for. He said you guys have just been like starving and miserable, and I'm your dad, remember? It breaks my heart. I was worried when God told me to go get you. I was worried that Satan was going to stop me. So that's why I have this staff of light. God gave me this to whack him with if he tries. So that's just like... And I was worried I was too old to make the journey too. But I asked God to send his angels instead because I was like, I'm way too old for this. But he told me that you guys wouldn't go with angels because they don't look like you. But I look like you because you're my kids. Look how old and feeble I am. It's been such a hard journey. But come with me to a place of rest at last. And then he just starts crying. This Adam and Eve look at this random old guy just bawling at the entrance to their cave. And of course they believe him. He's offering them everything they want. I feel like they just really need to get it through their heads that they're the only people on Earth. And whenever anyone else shows up claiming to be another person, like, it's always Satan. Anyway, so chapter 61, they go with Satan. Because he's like, I'm your dad. I have another Garden of Eden. It's just this. It's a long way away. Come, let's go. Come to the... So he takes Adam and Eve by the hand, and they leave the cave. And they start walking, and God sees and is like, oh, my me, not again. The word of God shows up and curses Satan and drives him away, and then turns to Adam and Eve and is like, why did you guys leave the cave? And Adam's like, did you make another guy before you made us? Like, did you make that guy before us and then make me out of his rib? That's what he came and told us he was a messenger from you to bring us back to another garden. And God is like, dude, that was Satan. He saw you guys fasting and praying and wanted to ruin it to bring you somewhere else to destroy you again. Because if you recall, he's already pushed them off a cliff and also beat them to death. He made himself look like you so you would believe him, and you fell for it again. It's a good thing I had mercy on you and I didn't let him kill you again. Go back to the cave and don't come out until the 40 days are up. And then go back to the eastern gate of the garden. Just the gate. Don't go in there. So Adam and Eve are like, thank you for saving us again, and they hurry back to the cave. It's the evening of the 39th day anyway, but they are still starving and lacking strength because they haven't eaten or drunk anything in almost 40 days. And they pray to God for help with that, and apparently he just doesn't. But morning comes, and Adam gets Eve up to go to the eastern gate of the garden like God told them to, and they say their prayers and they try to head out, but they are too exhausted to move. The word of God finds them like just listless in the cave. And it's like, all right, guys, go get the figs you never ate because you were scared. Believe there were others before. Oh, they're never mentioned in this one. It's always Satan that I've seen so far, but that is true. So they do start heading back to get their figs. Satan, meanwhile, is envious at God comforting Adam and Eve. So before they get back in to get their figs, he steals them and buries them outside the cave so that Adam and Eve won't find them. While he is also, plotting to destroy them, as always. He needs a hobby. Gardening, maybe? Quote, but by God's mercy, the figs, now buried, what does fruit do when you bury it? They grow into fruit trees. By God's power, they grow instantaneously into trees, and the trees are covered with fruit, and Satan sees this and is like, I should have just left the figs in the cave. Now they have trees, and now they have even more figs. Tried to take away their figs. Now they have more figs than before. I thought burying them would destroy them. Satan clearly doesn't understand how plants work, which is understandable considering I don't think he's really seen a lot of plants. Clearly he's not been in the Garden of Eden. And I don't think even the Garden of Eden, I think it was all kind of planted in there before Adam and Eve were put there. You fell victim to one of the classic blunders.
You fell victim to one of the classic blunders.
And he runs away in shame at his failure. Seriously, quote, then Satan went away ashamed of not having wrought out his design. Foiled again. So Adam and Eve come back, and they see the fig trees, which were not there before, and they're very confused. Adam is like, Eve, are we at the right cave? Is there another cave that we've arrived at that has trees outside it? Let's go inside and see if our figs are in there, because we definitely left the figs in there, and we'll be sure that this is our cave. So they go in and they look for the figs. But of course, the figs are gone, and Adam starts crying and is like, I think we're at the wrong cave. Are we lost? Where is our cave? Those fig trees really look like the figs we had, but we didn't have fig trees. And Eve is just like, I don't know. Adam prays and is like, God, you told us to come back to the cave and get the figs, but the figs are gone. Did you take the figs and put these trees here? Or... are we totally somehow lost and at the wrong cave? Did Satan just trick us again? Please tell us what's going on, because they're very confused, and being confused is extra stressful for them because, if you recall, they are essentially babies who can talk. The word of God comes and explains, indeed, and tells them what Satan did, and is like, Satan did not intend to plant these to give you trees, but in my mercy, I made them into trees for you, to show my power and my marvelous works. Seriously, guys, Satan has not stopped trying to mess with you since you left the garden, but I have not given him power over you. I don't know why he was saying that he's king of them, but you're welcome for the trees, though. You can rest in their shade, or when you're tired, but don't eat their fruit or go near them. I don't know why he said that. Adam is also confused, just like we are. and starts crying again and is like, are you gonna kill us again? Like, if these trees are evil and full of death, please just pull them up and let them die and leave us to die of starvation. We know thy marvelous works, and that thy power can make rocks to become trees.
This rock will be a tree.
And trees to become rocks. They've come a long way in their appreciation of rocks. That's progress. Now, God is pretty impressed upon Adam and presumably Eve's strength of mind, and upon his endurance of hunger and thirst and of the heat. He turns the fig trees back into just a couple of figs like they were before, easier to cope with, I think, and tells Adam and Eve they can each have one fig and to go eat them in the cave. And it's about sunset, so they go back in and say their prayers, as they do at sunset, and sit down to eat the figs. And then they realize they have no idea how to eat. They ate the fruit from the tree of knowledge of good and evil, but they, I guess, don't know how to eat. They're not accustomed to eat earthly food. They're also afraid that if they eat the earthly food, they will like it, and that will make them, like, truly mortal forever. So they're still too scared to eat them. They do not eat the figs. God is like, if they don't eat something, they're actually gonna die. And so he sends them an angel to help out, and the angel is like, guys, you're mortal now. You have to eat or you will die. And this finally seems to convince them. Into the figs, quote, God has put a mixture as of savory bread and blood. I'm hoping this is like a metaphor for the flesh and juice of the fruit, but with how this book has been so far, who really knows? Adam and Eve eat the figs until they're full, and they set aside what's left, but by the power of God, kind of feeding the 5,000 here, the figs are still as full and big as they were before. And maybe, I think God is relieved that they finally ate some food. You're brilliant, injured ally. That brings it all together. Adam and Eve, of course, feel much better, and, quote, arose and prayed with a joyful heart and renewed strength, and praised and rejoiced abundantly the whole of that night. And this was the end of the 83rd day. In the morning, they get up and say their prayers as usual, and they go to head out of the cave, but they're not feeling too great. And immediately they panic and are like, why has eating put us in pain? We are definitely going to die.